Hello and welcome to episode number 2. This is actually going to be a 2-part series that we're going to get into. My name is Jeff Lascola and I'm here with my better half,
Kristen Lascola. Hi.
Hello, and thank you again for joining us. Today we're actually going to be talking about, why don't you go ahead and put it in your words. What is this episode about?
Ooh, it's spicy. We might hurt some feelings. So this is why youth pastors get a bad rap and what you can do about it, maybe to avoid the pitfalls of the typical youth pastor persona. And some of it is, I don't know. I really like looking at the stereotypes of youth pastors, like on YouTube and stuff. It's really funny. If you've been at it for a while, you probably remember Ignatius. Do you remember Ignatius?
I don't.
Okay, well, it's old now, but back in the day, that was a super funny parody. But here's the thing. While some of the youth pastor bad reputation stuff is funny, what we're going to talk about today is how it can actually prevent you from advancing organizationally. And if you fall into these pitfalls, it can decrease your organizational value and worth, which obviously none of us want. A lot of youth pastors, I hope, that are listening want to stay in the game for a while and they want to be valued in their organization. So these are the no-nos to avoid, but that I see a ton with the youth pastors that I work with.
And again, this is going to be, there's a lot of them because you youth pastors have a lot of problems.
We're so naughty.
And the funny thing about stereotypes is they are funny because they're true. So these are going to be the first 5 in the part 1 series. So why don't you go ahead and start. Number 1 is what?
Okay, so youth pastors are known for leaving messes and breaking things. And so...
I'm sorry, youth pastors or the students in the youth ministries?
It makes no difference because we answer for it.
Gotcha.
Yep. So when it's on our watch, that's when it's our responsibility. So I have noticed, I work with middle schoolers, which they are professionals. They are mess making ninjas, and they find new and creative ways to make messes all the time. And so I need to sharpen my mess cleaning up ninja skills. Like I've had students actually shove Starburst wrappers into the succulent pots so that you can't see them until you're close up. But
right.
Guess who still gets an email on Wednesday morning? I do. They don't get an email. I get an email.
That's creative. That's creativity, and that should be applauded because the effort they took.
Yeah, true.
You could say the effort it took you to do that would have been as much as actually throwing it away.
But that's not fun.
It's kind of like a youth minister Easter egg hunt.
Right. I mean,
where is the trash?
Where is the trash? And
what's that smell?
Where is the cold pizza? Well, it's in between the couch cushions. Yeah. So here's the thing that I've noticed is that regardless of how it happened, we answer for it. So we need to dot every I, cross every T. We need to be the last person to leave the church, leave the building, leave the room, leave the facility, the camp, whatever house you rented, whatever it might be. We need to adopt a Boy Scout mentality of leaving it better than we found it. And so
because blaming it on whoever did it doesn't
gets
help.
Us nowhere.
Right.
It just makes us look like amateurs or noobs or whatever.
And actually, if you can identify the person who did do it, it's even worse because then you still didn't do anything about it.
You saw them shove pizza in the couch cushions and then you were like, I walked away.
Right.
So that's actually a pretty, to be honest, like painful lesson I've learned because I would be so frustrated every Wednesday morning getting these emails from our admin or our associate pastor of just like, you guys left a mess. You guys did this. You guys did that. And I was like, how can I win? Right. I can't win at this game of the Easter egg hunt of trash. And so a system that I've adopted is my paid staff and I do a sweep of every single room that was used before we exit the building. And they are not allowed to leave till I leave, and I do not leave until everything has been checked out. So if they're like, all right, I'm going to take off, it's like, if I'm still here, that means there's still something to do. So they just know if you're on paid staff, you do not leave. If you don't have a paid staff, then maybe you want to get like a couple superstar volunteers that you think in a special way that help you scope out your building. To get more eyes on it than just yours. And yeah, I mean, the cost of it is you do stay late, you know, you do have to do some dirty work and all of that. But if it's on our watch, ultimately we're responsible for it. So yeah, I think if we don't do that, what happens over time is we get this sand in the gears of our organization, and people are low level or maybe high level frustrated with us consistently because of every time they walk into their room, there's pizza boxes.
Right.
Every time they go to get a dodgeball that we borrowed, it's not where it's supposed to be. Every time, so we need to be careful of not adding sand in the gears to our organization, because over time, that's going to work really hard against you and your internal reputation, which that goes far. I mean, youth pastors always are complaining that they want opportunities. I want to speak. I want to lead. I want to do stuff outside of my silo. Well, we don't realize these little things add up to how people feel about us.
Right.
So,
and if you get that reputation, if you go the extra mile and you clean up above and beyond every week, when something gets found, maybe you won't be the first person to get blamed, because let's be honest, adults aren't much cleaner sometimes than students.
Truth.
But they probably don't have, pizza on a Sunday morning, but they might have
bagels. Shove bagels everywhere.
There may be a napkin or something, shoved in a couch cushion or whatever. But if you have the reputation of, well, that's definitely from the youth ministry, because that's where it always comes, you're going to get blamed. But if you're the one who leaves the place spotless,
sparkling,
which is difficult, I would admit, but
it is.
You could become the one that they're going to say, hey, there was a napkin. So everybody be on the lookout. Not, there was a napkin. We clearly know it was the junior high ministry, or we know that it was the high school ministry. So maybe.
And I feel like we're at the point too, where it's like, like on job sites, it's like so many days without an accident. Like I kind of feel like I'm at the point with my staff, it's like 100 days without an email from our admin saying there's candy shoved in the handicap elevator or something. So, I honestly, we've got our system down so much. I used to, no joke, get one every Wednesday morning. We're probably, with this new system of sweeping and every nook and cranny of the building, I'd say we've gone like 6 months with no email. So this could be our year.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you could even make it fun too, and make it almost, like that Easter egg hunt, but kind of like a Hall of Fame of what were the most creative places.
Don't tell the students.
No, you couldn't, because they would go above and beyond. But it would just, with your leaders, you could say,
there'd be melted ice cream in my filing cabinet.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, what's number 2?
Okay. So number 2 is this reputation we get for being really bad with money and not being able to manage our budgets. So if you struggle with this and you've been in the red consistently, you need to get help with your budget. So lose the pride, lose the ego. Yes, you're an adult, but we're expected to manage sometimes large budgets with maybe not a whole lot of training on how to plan that out. So we cannot afford organizationally to be consistently red. So I've reached out, so all of these, I'm not like, yeah, you bad youth pastors. It's like, these are dumb taxes I've had to pay myself and figure out how to get from struggling to doing proficient in a lot of these areas. So my campus pastor is super good with money. And I've asked to sit down with him a number of times to say like, okay, I'm obviously missing something here, or I'm planning something wrong. Help me get on pace for a good year. I reached out to another youth pastor at our church, and because he was like turning a profit on some things, and
what's a profit? What does that even mean?
Okay, so like if he had extra money left over from camp, strategizing how to pour that back into your ministry, like for scholarship funds.
Okay. So you're not are you saying under budget, or under budget and you made money?
Kind of.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. I mean, so one huge thing for us has been our snack shack. So we buy all this candy in bulk and we sell everything dirt cheap. Everything's $1. soda, ice cream, candy, whatever.
You're really underselling that because a junior higher will pay
they'll
$20 a candy bar.
Well, they'll come with $20 and buy $20 worth of stuff, but it doesn't cost us that. So the extra money, I took my staff on a staff retreat. I was able to contribute to students who couldn't afford, whether it be camp or different events, and then I didn't have to ask the congregation. I could do room improvements with some of that stuff. This past year, I got some new aesthetic stuff for my classroom. It's just learning ways to win at your budget. I have a super huge event that costs us a ton of money that I'm reconsidering this year because, we take this winning team to Six Flags for this big competition, and it's like, dang, that's a lot of money on transportation and on tickets. So I'm having to kind of relook at that as we've grown. But the bottom line is whether you need to re-strategize ways to, either increase your budget just by being savvy with the things we mentioned, or get on pace. You need to, we love to, the typical youth pastor's complaint is, oh, I have no money in my budget. Oh, my budget's too small. You know what? I've asked parents to donate different things that I'm like, I don't really want to spend money on this, but I bet you there's parents that would totally come to the rescue on this, food for my staff retreats. Like, hey, you've been asking me for a way to thank these leaders that pour into your kids. I don't really have a role for you, but you want to provide one of the meals that I can take up on our staff retreat, or the items for it, and I'll cook it. But
which is also good because I feel like so many parents want to help until it's like, do you want to help out with junior hires and drive a van? No, but here's $50.
But I'm going to Costco anyways, and I'll pick up, eggs and bacon
for those
for you guys.
who have the means. It can just be easier. Like, yeah, I'd love to support you. Here's some money.
Right.
I can do my part and not actually have to be anywhere near those dirty, stinky children. It's true.
Well, yeah.
I'll write a check and then walk away, and then I did my part.
Make it out to Kristen last call. Right. Just kidding. Yeah. So making sure we're really, really good at our budget. So don't lose any more money and don't complain that you don't have enough, unless, here's the caveat, and that if your ministry numbers have increased, that's the time you ask for a budget increase.
If you can justify it.
Yeah. So if you can actually present those numbers and say, we grew 20% last year, my budget has stayed the same. In order to carry out the same quality and level of ministry, I'm going to need, whatever percentage jump for that. So you want to save those budget when you have numbers to back it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, let me just say this though: is it possible that you could be at a point where you're at a small church or a small youth group, and you're thinking, if I had more money, we could do more things. We could get more kids to be able to come and hear about Jesus, and push the agenda. No, but just push the ministry.
You're
out
so
there.
secular.
I seriously am. You'll help me, but you know what I mean. Like, is that because I feel like so many things? It's like we could go so big, but we don't have the money to do it.
We
could grow, but we can't back up that growth financially.
In some ways, but I think.
Do well with what you have.
Yeah,
and show
so we
that you
have
can use
this
it.
Mentality at North Coast, and I think it's called the Apollo 13 mentality, and it's like, here's a box of stuff.
Yeah,
figure it out. And I think that's kind of where you earn your stripes as a youth pastor, and your legitimacy is like, how well can you do with very little? Because it's the easiest thing to just sit back and complain. And trust me, we came from nothing to just sit there and go, well, if I had more money, I could do more things. It's like, well, there's so many opportunities and people and resources that you probably just haven't tapped into. We could probably do a whole episode of that, like Apollo 13ing your ministry. I don't want to go too far on that, but I think mostly just for today is knowing there could be things there that you don't realize if you get really creative, if you ask the right people, and I'm not talking about let's do a car wash and raise funds, because that's a lot of work for no money, right? But looking at who you already have in your circle and leveraging the resources that you have within arm's reach to you based on who's around you. So,
and being a good steward of the budget you were given.
For sure.
Okay. What's number 3?
Okay. So number 3 has to do with lateness. So punctuality in terms of a couple of things. So Guy, this must be really near and dear to my heart because my brain's going like a million different directions. I harped on my small group leaders pretty hard about this actually just this week. I said, we say our program ends at 9. It's a school night. I said, we kind of changed like, yes, our program on paper ends at 9. But I've asked them to dismiss their small groups by 8:50 to give us that time of like not just cutting it so close, right? So some of them, are very good at it and some of them are not. But for me, as the captain of the ship, I need to make sure that we're honoring parents' time by doing what we say. I heard a horror story of a youth group recently that let their small groups, because there was so much good stuff happening, go till 9:30 when on paper it said 9. And this mom was venting to me about, I had 2 little ones at home and I needed to get them to bed and we still had homework to finish up. And, by the time we got home and now it's almost 10, and she's like, I was so frustrated. And, I know that there was good stuff going on in their small group, but at the same time, we're planning our lives around this. Guys, we have to make sure we do what we say we're going to do time-wise. So if you're late rolling in from camp, every parent needs to get a text message, or you need to find a platform to where you can communicate that lateness. If you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time with their children, you need to be there on time. Now, this also goes for internal too. So lateness in terms of show up to your meetings on time, that whole like organizational value and worth thing that we were talking about. Show up to appointments on time. If you're having a lunch meeting with someone, show up on time. And this has been my pet peeve for like 10 years, when people show up late holding a Starbucks cup or any, whatever your coffee of choice is.
With one for you, then it could cushion the blow.
I will forgive you a little if it's a decaf soy latte. We probably will remain friends. But if you show up with a coffee and you're late, it's like, I like get a tick when that happens. It's just a matter, like what all this boils down to is respect. The other part of communication that I think youth pastors really struggle with, or punctuality, is with communication. Right. I hear horror stories of parents saying like, I reached out, I emailed him, I texted him, I called, I never heard anything back. And then they will go around you, and heaven forbid they have to contact your senior pastor or campus pastor to get in touch with you. That is a nail in your coffin, like to be sure. So one of our senior pastors has this like a rule, I guess, or a policy. If it has to do with parent communication, you have a 24-hour window to where you can return that, whether it's email, text, whatever. If it's staff, I think he doesn't put like a time cap on that, but I think if they're waiting for something for you, giving like a 48-hour window of just, hey, I saw your email, working on it, thanks. Even if you can't get what they need, if it's your expense report, our finance department sends out an email and says, hey, it's due this date. There's no reason we can't turn that in on time. Whether maybe you fill out a timesheet, there's no reason that can't be turned in on time. We just have to get away from this like, oh, well, I'll get around to it when I can. Because again, what that's communicating is disrespect for that other person's job, that other person's time. They have deadlines, and I mean, I love youth pastors. I am one. I've had to shake some of these bad habits, but there's certain teams that I lead of youth pastors that I'm like, you guys are the worst. Right. Not communicating that you're not going to be at something, just not showing up. Like, I just think we get in this really bad youth pastor habit of like kind of marching to our own pace, and everyone can just follow suit, And again, it's one of those things where reputation can precede you. And if you don't have that reputation, and hey, I legitimately hit traffic, not every single week, but like there was a one time it happened, or my phone was dead, and then people will give you that grace. But if it's like, this is every week or every day, I don't buy it. Sure. So. And it's that whole chips in the bank, illustration of like, how many chips in the bank do I have with the finance department, with the senior pastors, with the parents, with the students, with the facilities team, with the graphics team. How many chips in the bank do I have with those people? Because the time will come where I have to.
You need that favor.
I need to cash out a little bit. But if my bank account is empty, then people are going to get sick of me eventually and be like, not helping this clown. Like, they don't do any, they never do what they say they're going to do.
And along the same lines as that, the one thing that bugs me is when people text you, it's usually through text, obviously, but, I'm going to be 15 minutes late, and you're looking at your watch and you're like, well, you're already late.
Right.
You should have texted that text 30 minutes ago, because you knew.
I would have sent a couple more emails. I would have stopped to get gas.
Yeah.
I would have, it's just that respect of time.
Yeah. Okay, what's number 4?
Okay, number 4. Okay, so this could go along with the whole late thing a little bit. So youth pastors get a bad rap for being bad with communication. The lateness thing, I think we kind of covered that. And
beat it to a pulp.
Right. Ad nauseum. People say that. I'm not totally sure what it means, but I think I used it right.
It sounds like nauseous.
Like you talked about it so much, you're nauseous.
Sure, we'll go with that.
That's what I thought.
Well, the Greek, the Latin, all of that combined makes you nauseous.
I graduated cum laude. Okay. The whole thing of bad with communication. So I think for this one, our communication, especially working with students, needs to be pristine to parents. So what does that look like? They need many outlets for their whatever you're trying to communicate. So don't ever just choose one outlet. I learned this the hard way of like, well, I announced it at youth group. How do you not know what we're doing?
I can't believe a sixth grader didn't come home and tell you all the details.
Well, I told them like the deadline was this day, so I don't know what to tell you.
And they threw trash in the couch, so we'll add that.
But yeah, so I have kind of like 7 different methods I use to communicate all the same exact thing,
Carrier pigeon, email, bullhorn, notes passed through class.
Yeah.
And whatever the other 3 are.
And telepathy.
Tilapia ad nauseum. Yeah, and it all comes back to, we all know what the acronym stands for, but CYA, cover your...
See ya later.
See ya. No. Cover your bunsies.
Booty.
Yeah, because it's going to come back where it's going to be, it's your fault.
You're so secular again.
Why
you can't use cuss letters.
You can't?
A.
Cover your B.
I'm so glad you've brought the world into this podcast, Jeff.
And this marriage.
Keeping us relevant.
So I don't think so. No, but it's true though. It's going to come back. It's your fault because this was not communicated. It's your fault. You need to make sure that you are, and I think what you're probably about to say, and you can say it, but not everybody checks email consistently. Not everybody. I'll be honest.
My small group leaders never freaking check their email.
I can't stand the phone. Like, I'll text you back within seconds. If you call me, it's going to voicemail because I just don't like talking on the phone.
What if it were to me? Would you want to talk to me?
Sometimes I do it in spite. I'll just not talk to you because yours always goes straight to voicemail. So I thought 2 can play at this straight to voicemail game.
Ooh,
no, I usually will because I feel like hopefully when you text me, it's something important. And not that other people aren't, but I feel like never am I staring at a wall with nothing that I'm doing that I'm like, oh, thank goodness somebody called. Whereas I feel like a text is more,
Have you ever posted a selfie and just said, bored? Like,
No, I have not been bored in probably 25 years. I feel like not everybody is good at every communication, so you almost kind of need to
so some of that is like
way.
Okay, we have a website, everything you need to know is posted on the website.
I didn't even know you had a website.
chaosjh.com. Yeah, you can check that out. I send out a parent email every single Monday. I post on our social medias. We have something at the church called a hot sheet, and what that is the top 5 events coming up will be under like junior high ministry. If a parent is interested in that, they can see that. They get handed that when they walk into church. We do live announcements. So we make those announcement videos. And now we're actually not just showing those at youth group anymore. We're posting those on our social media. And we have a lot of parents that follow our social media, which is super duper. I used to literally mail my seasonal calendar out so they would get a hard copy in the mail. I have too many students for that now. I only mail stuff once in a while because it's too much. But that is a great way if you're a ministry that your size. I mean, just sit there at your staff meetings and have everyone help you fold, label stuff, whatever, and get it into the mail. Some people really prefer it just to come to them. You can text parents. There's plenty of texting services now that you can make that a super easy thing. So basically, one of those methods of communication should stick. Now, how to communicate early and often, okay? But not too often. I'll talk about that in a second. So early, meaning parents are preparing their summer calendars for their family vacations probably before even the turn of the year. So I would say around like Thanksgiving. So getting out your summer camp dates very early. I would say up until a year to 9 months in advance. Getting your seasonal calendars out. So I do my calendars in 3-month blocks. Obviously one for every season. So getting those out, hard copies on our information table and up on the website. And I email that stuff, but just making sure that is out early enough for people to plan their personal calendars around coming to your events. A lot of youth pastors get discouraged because they say, nobody comes to my events and I put all this work and I plan all this stuff and where are these? If you follow Youth Group Boy on Twitter, like he talks about that all the time about why he told his youth pastor he couldn't come to all this stuff. And one, I think, thing we forget is that families have a lot going on. So if you want high attendance at your things, you need to communicate early and often. And by often, I mean once a week through email to just keep that stuff going in their minds. And I tell parents all the time, I'm not going to overuse the email thing because parents get enough from the school and the sports and all of that.
And everything you've signed up for ever in your life.
Yes. And so it's like every Monday, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, read it, and you'll be good. And I've had parents respond to me, Kristen, thank you so much for making this so clear. You communicate so well. Thank you so much. We always know what's going on. And I'm like, yes, it's working. And we do get high. I mean, I joke now that if we turn on the light and open the door, they'll be there. Like they want to be where we are because we always tell them what we have going on. So communication early, communication often, more outlets, timely manner, and clear. So tell them what they need to know. Here's where you're going to lose points. If you keep going back and forth, we're meeting at 4. Wait, I meant 4:30. Wait, actually 3:45. Or if you do that, you're going to lose major points. You need to know what you're going to communicate perfectly before you send it, before you hit that send button. Because first thing I learned in college, it's a duh point. Communication's irreversible. Yeah. So once you've put it out there, you now to get it back and to adjust it and to fix it and it's like you're just creating confusion. People are like, peace out. Like we're going to do something
just take
else.
Email, for example. If you sent out an email that had the wrong date and then you immediately thought, oh no, that was the wrong date, and you have to send it again, even though you corrected it immediately.
Somebody already saw it. And not only that, they're going to read it, and they might even read, oh, wrong date, here's the new date, but they're going to kind of forget it. Mm-hmm. And then maybe a couple months later, wait, when was that again? Like when was summer camp? They go back in their email, and if they read the wrong one, they're not going to be like, and I also remember there was a mistake, and they said, and that happens. Yeah, you want to make sure that communication is very clear. And along those lines, I think a lot of youth pastors are a little trigger shy of giving parents their cell phone numbers. I have like a lot of students, and I give my cell phone number out to every parent because they
Do you take their calls when they call? Because you don't take mine. Go straight to voicemail.
Text me because I always have it on do not disturb time. Because
it'll
so
ring
annoying.
Once. It rings once.
Yeah, on do not disturb on your end it rings once. I don't hear it. on like allowing parents to have your cell phone number.
Yeah.
So when those little discrepancies come up, like just allow them to text you, allow them to call you. They need to be able to get a hold of you, especially when you have your children in their care. Even if their kids have a cell phone, I know that, but they need to be able to get a hold of you. And it's never been abused. Like I've never regretted it. I think there's this fear of like, oh no, you're going to call me at 3 a.m. and need me to do something. Like I've never regretted it. It's just the day of an event, my phone blows up and I'm prepared for that and we all move on, but it gives parents peace of mind and that's worth it.
Okay. And number 5.
Number 5 is that a lot of youth pastors use this excuse, I'm better with students than parents. And we use that as an excuse for like maybe being afraid to engage with parents the way that we should be. We say, oh, I'm better with students than adults. And
I'm better with dogs than people. So there's that.
I'm better with being alone than anything.
Preach.
But just not hiding behind that, I think, of like not engaging with parents as much. Like, here's what I think we need to be doing is when a parent walks through the door, you should be all over
hiding.
that.
Oh no. Running the other way.
And that is what some want to do. They don't want to talk to parents. They don't want to deal with parents. And here's where I think it comes from. I think it comes, especially if you're a younger youth pastor, you probably are a little bit afraid. Like, what if they have a complaint? What if like they're going to like ask me something or put me on the spot, or like you just are prepared to feel uncomfortable. But the thing is, you need to see every interaction with a parent as the opportunity to create a raving fan of you, of your ministry, whatever their question is. Just be brave, be bold, because you can handle it, especially when you're doing your job right. You have nothing to hide.
Right.
When you have a great staff, you want to like introduce that parent to everyone. When you have a great ministry that has safety in mind and that is well organized and a great place for kids to come, when you're preaching the word, like all those things that you should be doing, a parent interaction is just like, look at all the cool things I'm doing. And you want to make them as big of a fan as you can. So don't run away from those. You know, we talked about how to win them over with communication, but win them over with like that relationship too, of that you're in their corner, that this is a partnership. It's not just like, I'm friends with your kid, but like, I don't want to talk to you, you know, like that doesn't sit well with parents. They want a partnership. So when I see a parent walk through my door, I like drop everything. I don't care who's around me. I'm like, goodbye, you don't matter. And I want to talk to that
including
parent.
the parent you're currently talking to.
Old news. Don't want to talk to you anymore. Because I want to greet them. I want to introduce myself.
Yeah.
I want to give them a camp flyer. I want to show them around. I want to give them a tour. I want to, how long have you lived here? How long have you come to our church? Do you know about this?
Create that raving fan of your ministry.
Yeah. And just that relationship. And so
they're probably avoiding you actually when they come in.
Oh, they cannot escape. I will love them and they will love me back.
It's funny that you mentioned that though, because there was a time almost 7 years ago when we had the birth of our first child that while you were on maternity, the church had the brilliant idea of having me fill in. Yeah. So it was literally day one that I remember it very clearly. I was probably in the office for maybe 15 minutes and it was before the youth group that night. Kids, obviously, they get there 12 hours earlier than they should. A topic for another day. But a parent came up to me, beeline, and she just said, "Are you in charge?" And I reluctantly said, "I guess." And she said, "My daughter is being bullied at school, and this is a big problem." Yada,
what are you
yada.
going to do about it?
Well, yeah, it was kind of like, and this girl also goes to this ministry, and I remember just thinking, I'm trying to figure out the copy machine. Like, I just got a key to come in here and I figured out where the light switch was. And I'm trying to make a 2-sided copy in this archaic copy machine. And so I get it that, it's like that became every time I would see a parent, I was like, oh no, what are you going to want? What issue is it? And not that I didn't have compassion for the problem. It was just really hard to kind of just being thrown into that. But I think the more you deal with it.
And that's what I was going to say. I think the more you practice those conflict resolution skills with parents is like you become a pro at it. And you get more and more comfortable with it, and you're not afraid, to the point where maybe you'll be like me and like run and hug them as soon as they come in, you know. But
psycho.
Yeah, totally. But getting really good with parents, resourcing parents. You know, if a parent comes to you with an issue, hey, here's a really great book that could give you some perspective on it. Hey, why don't you come in? I'll make you a coffee and we'll sit down. Let's talk about this a little bit. Inviting parents to your office. You know, we think so much like, oh, I need to like pour into my small group leaders and take them out and like meet with them one-on-one. Like, find opportunities to do that with parents too.
Right.
Of where you can meet with them and talk with them about like what they're dealing with their child, because it really should be a partnership between you and them.
And that gives you a lot of insight into the child as well.
Right.
Because sometimes you can see, okay, I didn't know that they were struggling with that. They didn't tell me that. But if the parent gives you that information, you can, you know, obviously have a little more compassion for maybe where they're coming from. Yes. And when they stuff a candy bar wrapper into a succulent, that maybe you'll give them a little more grace.
I'll be like, I didn't know that
that's your outlet for,
yeah,
for rebelling.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll clean it up. I'll deal with the emails.
Well, that's awesome. That's the first 5 of a 12-part series. No, we're gonna next episode we'll talk and get into the next 5. So thank you for watching. For those of you on YouTube, thank you for listening. Those of you listening to this on our podcast,
and thank you those for watching. Those that are
who.
Never mind. I was gonna make a joke, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense.
All right. They always say end on a high note, and we're well beyond that point. So join us next time. We're going to go through the next 5, and hopefully Kristen will be able to put a sentence together. Thanks again. Bye.
Thanks for checking out this episode. We hope that it provided a ton of insight for you to create health in yourself, your ministry, and your church.
And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Ministry Coach podcast wherever you're watching or listening. And it would mean so much to us if you would rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts.
And we'd also encourage you to share it with a friend so that it can go to help more people. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.